I mean, who'd have thought with the NFL and college football on fire, the baseball playoffs about to start, NBA didn't even start for another few weeks. Friday night, I'm watching the Miami and Virginia Tech game, and then boom, in the middle of nowhere, I want to say Woj bomb so bad. I miss Woj. Man, that's my guy. Shout out to him and his future endeavors, but man, I miss the Woj bomb. But shout out to Shams Charania, though, because he broke the news that the New York Knicks have traded for Karl-Anthony Towns for the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are in that trade get Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, and a first-round pick, a future first-round pick. So, first of all, on the Minnesota side, I was talking to a buddy of mine, Grady Edwards. Shout out to Grady. He's often commenting on the show and being active. He's a great guy. But we were talking about this, and we were both like, man, why did Minnesota make this trade? Like, this doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. And the only rationale, because I think the Timberwolves, who have been poorly run for decades, and the Warriors, my Warriors used to absolutely fleece them in trades. I do feel like they're smartly owned and operated at this point, or at least smartly run. Obviously, getting the GM for the Denver executive from Denver to run their basketball operations. Here's the only reason I can figure they made this move. At least the only reason that I would agree with them making this move. Anthony Edwards, we know who he is. This is a superstar. He's a superstar already, I think, but he's 22, 23 years old. He's just going to get better and better and better. He hasn't even hit his prime yet. Kid is special. They got to the conference finals last year. Timberwolves got a potentially bright future with this kid. What I think it could be, this is just a theory. I'm not saying this is the case, but I'm just throwing this out there. Could the Timberwolves have made this trade to have some assets to get Kevin Durant? Because we know KD and Edwards, they're tight. It's very much like a older brother, little brother type of dynamic. KD and Ant were real close, throughout the Olympics, and Ant was like, man, I love being around this guy and practicing with this guy, and KD's like mentoring him. And I think KD, who's never been a natural leader, which that's not a bad thing. It's just not KD's personality, but I think KD's kind of gotten a kick out of being like I kind of get to mentor this young guy. Like he looks up to me. It's kind of a weird spot to be in, I guess, when KD is still fantastic coming off a year where he averaged 27 a game. But I think Kevin's gone at the deadline this year. I do not buy the Phoenix Suns whatsoever. I think they're a poorly constructed roster. Them adding Tyus Jones, so I'm a big Tyus Jones guy, liked that. Coach Bud, that's not going to work. Bradley Beal injuries. I think KD at this stage of his career, he's got to play on some winners while he's still elite player. I think that's at least on the table for the Timberwolves. Otherwise, I don't really get why they did this. If the Timberwolves are hoping to make another run, or at least a deeper run, with Ant Edwards, who's great, and their second best player being Rudy Gobert. Y'all know what I think about Rudy. He's a four-time defensive player of the year, shouldn't have any, who can't guard the perimeter to save his life, and is one of the easiest players in the National Basketball Association to game plan for. But all of that said, that's the only reason I can figure why the Timberwolves did this. But the bigger story is obviously the Knicks. Why the Knicks do it? Well, to me, the story for the New York Knicks right now in this moment, and the thing that I'm looking at and being optimistic about this team, because I think they level the playing field with the Boston Celtics. Like, my mindset was when they add him, some of these pieces, and were able to keep guys like OG Anunoby in free agency. My mindset was, okay, they're better, but is Tibbs going to run them into the ground in terms of their minutes? As the Boston Celtics, while they may get obliterated like 2-3 years from now in terms of the second apron. But by the way, that's why the ownership is selling the team. They're like, hey, we're going to win a championship, maybe win another one, and then we'll let the new ownership take care of that second apron crap. See ya. That's why they did it. I still feel like the Celtics had the edge in terms of depth, in terms of veteran leadership. Now you have Tatum and Brown with the ring on their finger. They feel an extra sense of confidence about themselves, and Mazzulla has proven himself to be a pretty darn good NBA head coach. Here's to me why the Knicks have leveled the playing field with the Celtics. It's not just because of Brunson, who I'm a huge Brunson fan. He was insane in the playoffs last year. Unbelievable. It's not just because of Cat, who's now their second best player, multi-time all-star guy, right? Can shoot from the perimeter, has struggled in the playoffs, but in this spot, I think he can work. You know what that is? The story in this whole trade, this whole dynamic, is Mikal Bridges. And the reason I say that is because now Mikal Bridges, who's a guy who can get you 20 a game, who's an outstanding defender, That's your third option. When's the last time Mikal Bridges was the third option on a team? Oh, yeah, it was the Phoenix Suns who made the NBA Finals 3 years ago. And then the next year prior, yeah, they choked their guts out to Dallas in the second round, but they won 65 games that season. If Mikal Bridges, who, by the way, is a better player today than he was at the end of his time in Phoenix, that's your third option? Yeah, Knicks are in a good spot. Knicks are in a really, really, really good spot moving forward. Again, you have a big who can space the floor. You have Jalen Brunson, who's a great assist guy, can score the basketball very efficiently. We saw what he did in the playoffs despite dealing with injuries and a beat-up roster. I mean, at times, his second option. I love DiVincenzo, but DiVincenzo was often the second best player on the Knicks because OG Anunoby was dealing with injuries against the Pacers in the second round. I mean, this is to me, the story in the Cat trade is not that Cat's a Knick. It's that Mikal Bridges is the third option. It's kind of like when Kevin Durant joined the Warriors. And that, I mean, listen, love Cat. He's not Kevin Durant, certainly not prime Kevin Durant. But when KD signed with my Warriors, it was like, oh my God, Steph and KD, this is unstoppable. And I was like, Klay Thompson's your third option? And then he goes on, Klay, obviously, in that era, goes for 60 3/4, breaks the record for threes made in a game, which he still holds to this day. Like, it's, if a guy of, and Mikal Bridges is no Klay Thompson, by the way, but I'm saying it's in a lesser sense, somewhat analogous, that a guy who's an all-star caliber player, who can average 20, who plays outstanding defense, outstanding perimeter defense, and is always available. I don't think Mikal Bridges, I could be wrong on this, but I don't think he's ever missed a game in his career. And he's been in the NBA since, I think, 2018. Durable, great defender. I mean, is the ultimate guy you want to have on a championship roster. The Phoenix Suns can tell you that, when he wasn't quite the player he is now. If that's your third option, man, you're in good shape. And by the way, on the nights where a Cat or a Brunson may miss, well, he could step into being that number 2 role easily. He was going to be that this year. I think he was going to be that over Julius Randle. I really do. I never thought Randle within this current iteration of the Knicks was going to work. Large part, Julius Randle is, I'm not really sure what he wants to be in terms of a player. He's got the mid-range. He can score down low, but he likes shooting a lot of threes, but he's not that good at shooting threes. Knicks are in a good spot. My only concern, I don't have it as much now as I did prior to Friday. My only concern with the Knicks is Tibbs. He runs his players on the ground, man. He does. But with that said, I don't know if it's necessarily like equal level playing field with the Celtics as it pertains to just on paper roster. But in terms of the dynamic, in terms of, the hierarchy, so to speak, in the Knicks when it comes to scoring the basketball and playing your roles, they're in good shape. I mean, I honestly think last year I would have picked the Celtics to beat the Knicks in the conference finals if the Knicks were healthy, but I think that puppy would have went 6 or 7 games. I think the Knicks would have put up a better fight than Dallas did. I do. I really genuinely do. But then, like, even had they survived the Pacers, Boston probably would have taken them out in 5 because they just Knicks didn't have enough bodies. I mean, that's what hurt them at the end. I'm just looking at the roster right now. Like, it's good. I mean, you got Bridges, Brunson, Cat, OG Anunoby, who was a godsend for them at the deadline last year. You got Precious Achiuwa. I mean, you got some good players in this team, man. Josh Hart, Shamet, who's a good spot-up shooter. This is a great Knicks team. This, to me, is the second best team in the NBA. Right now, OKC is my favorite to win the West. I don't think they're as good as this team. They're good. Really good. And hey, listen, how great for the NBA would it be if we get a Boston, New York conference finals? Oh my gosh. I mean, knock on wood that like both teams are healthy and that happens. Like, that'd be amazing. That would be unbelievable. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.